Back again with another video breakdown. Today we're talking about this Goodwill ad that we made for the local chapter here in town. And we actually were able to use my favorite coffee shop, which is Fountain City Coffee here in town. So shout out to them. Anyways, let's jump right into it. So I'm gonna show you the ad real quick.
Hey, congratulations. Hope you're excited for your future.
Absolutely. Look, thanks for everything.
Hey, look, don't thank me. You put in the effort. Hey, you want something?
I hear I only have you like another week or two before you start your new job, man.
Yeah, it's true. But I'll be in. I'll just be on this side of the counter.
This one is on us.
Thanks.
We're sad to see him leave, but it's great that Goodwill is helping people find their careers.
Goodwill's for all of us.
Have a good one.
You too, man.
Thanks.
Hey, no problem. Take it easy.
All right, cool. So that was the ad, right? So let's break it down real quick, right? So the opening shot, there wasn't much to it. I want to say we had like a tube light back there, just kind of rimming her hands and stuff like that, right? So not much to this opening shot. It's just to set the scene that we're in a coffee shop. So we did shoot this after hours, and so the extras that we had on hand were people that were working there. So we didn't have very many extras to do exactly what I wanted, but life goes on. So then we move into this push-in shot of London, who is in blue. He's the Goodwill rep. He actually works for Goodwill as their like creative person, in-house person. And then we have Will, who you may have seen on my channel before, but he's an actor friend of mine. And then in the background we have Christian and Luke, who you've seen on my channel before too, and they're doing background things. And then later on, Garrett's gonna jump into the audio and how we did the audio for this. So because it was just myself and Garrett, and I think we had a BTS person, there wasn't a ton that we could do lighting wise. And so here, what I did was I took an F22 and I lifted the levels. So I just like ceiling bounced that light on camera side, so on the shadow side. And then right here on the little edge of that cooler that's on the right of the frame, I had a tube light kind of sitting on a shelf pointing down at London and Will. And then I had a tube light up here above the guy's head here in the background. It was on a metal railing, so I'd use magnets and put that up there. The rest of the lights were the house lights that they had. We were able to bring the levels down because they were on a dimmer, which was great. So anyways, we pushed in here. We cut into a tight shot of Will. And so when we cut into the tight shots, I did finagle some things. I did move things around. I brought the tube light around, and you can kind of see it there on the top of his head, that little bit of glisten. And then I brought the levels down from the ceiling mounts just to give us a little bit more shadow. And then I lifted London's character a little bit, and then we jump to London's character here. Same thing, the level stayed down on the shadow side, and then that tube light that was playing on Christian, the clerk, who was at the counter, was now playing for London. So we just moved that around, right? So then we jump back to this wide shot where they get up and they go to the counter to order their coffee. We jump over to Christian. This lighting here was a tube light in the back to lift the levels of their back, and then a tube light over Christian's head. And I'm gonna go back to the first shot so you can kind of see. It's hard to see, but right above Christian's head, there's this like light. There's all these fixtures that are above the bar, and I actually had to take the lights out of those for the shot when we got to Christian. So here we are. You can see in the opening shot, or in the opening wide shot of them, there's this orange light on Christian, but when we get to his shot here, I took it away because it was really harsh. In the wide, I didn't really care, but in the tight I did. But you can kind of see where our source is coming from. Our shadows over here on the left side of the screen are giving that away. So we had the F22 kind of blasting, and then we had the tube lights giving us some level, and we had a tube light on the right of frame up on one of these shelves, kind of just pointing back towards Christian, right? So we jump into this. We used a lot of dolly for this shoot. Wanted everything to be super smooth. Then we jump over to Will and London's coverage, which same lighting setup for Christian. It's that overhead tube light. And then we had the tube light in the background on that shelf again there. And then it's the same thing for the back and forth coverage, right? So then we jump into these shots, which is, the lighting's all the same. It's all just back and forth. We didn't change much on here. And then we jump back to the wide shot with the Goodwill outro sting. And so the lighting is the same in the outro as it is the intro. So real quick, high level, I want to talk about how we pulled this off, because it was about maybe a 4-day scenario. So we were coming close on a deadline to get this done. And me and London kept going back and forth between what they needed to show as a company and then what we were able to pull off with the resources that we had. And we eventually were able to land on what if we did the idea that, you know, that this guy is getting a job, he's moving on from this coffee shop because of Goodwill's help. What if instead of showing him in that new job, what if we showed what if we showed what happens beforehand, which was like this exit interview style thing, like, hey, congrats, good job, you did everything you're supposed to do, and you're moving on. You know, this is like a celebration meeting, right? And so this was like what would happen before he moves on to a new job, right? And that's why the clerk says, you know, we hate to lose him, but he's a hard worker, or whatever he says. But yeah, and so we knew we wanted to do a coffee shop, and so I called up Judd at Fountain City, and he was so gracious to say, yeah, come by on Monday, you can knock it out. And I think they closed at 6:30 or 7, and we started loading in about 6:30, and we were out of there by about 9:30, 10. So we had a pretty quick turnaround. So that's why I kept the scenes really simple. I just got coverage that I needed, and it worked out. So yeah, that was how we lit it. Here's how we shot it. We used the Dana Dolly, the Sackler head that I got a video out there somewhere in the world that shows me using that, but shot that on the Komodo with the 40 mil for most of it, except for the wide shots, we used the 28. But I did use the speed booster for the 28 mil shots, and I didn't use it for the 40 mil shots. So just to put that out there. But yeah, that's what we shot on, and graded this in Dehancer, which has been a great tool for us. But Garrett's going to talk about how we did the audio.
So here's the audio rundown for this Goodwill ad. As usual, I'm always going to conceal a wire on talent for that backup audio and in those little small moments that you may need it. But I'm always going to be trying to get as best boom coverage as possible. It was a beautiful capture on all fronts. All the wires sounded good. The boom sounded excellent. There was a few challenges. Anytime you're in a shop or a place of business, maybe a convenience store or anything that's got a lot of machinery, that's always kind of a challenge, right? So any direction that you're pointing a boom, you're going to introduce different noises. So we tried to cut off as much as possible, stuff that made sense. And it was a pretty good capture, but you know, had to work it a little bit in post, just with room tone and such. And I did capture room tone on the day, but I also in post, I ended up using a little bit of just kind of coffee shop ambience that I found that worked really well. Because we're trying to be as quiet as possible. Even the extras that might be in the scene, they're stepping softly and stuff like that. So I needed to kind of introduce some more ambient to bring it to life, right? So everything that you're hearing is boom coverage all the way, except for the very, very end, I did introduce a little bit of the wire on London, who was the Goodwill representative who was walking out of the scene. I'm trying to still keep camera perspective when I'm thinking about my audio, so it's not a real focused sound as he's walking away. But at that point, I was like, I think I'll fade in just a little bit of his wire to make that one, whatever he said, goodbye or later, you know, that line more audible. And that worked beautifully. So that's the beauty of always conceal a wire. Anytime in the past that I haven't and thought maybe I didn't need to, I always regretted it. So yeah, we were good to go. I'm super pumped about the way this ad turned out, and that's the audio rundown.
If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. But thanks.